Well, welcome to the Burnout Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Nugent. You get just me today. I'm going to talk about something that and share a lot around my weight loss transformation. I've shared about this numerous times and will continue to share my journey and what I've done, what I've learned. Very passionate about this because I know both sides of this. I used to weigh 350 pounds. Today I'm down nearly 130 pounds preparing for a men's physique show here in the next couple months. And to go from 350 to shredded on stage is quite a feat. It's something that I've wanted to do. It's something that I never thought was possible. And to think that even where I am today and where I'm headed feels impossible, if you will, or felt impossible. And now as you start to taste it and you start to see progress, it's incredible what we can do. I mean, I truly believe we can do anything or have any, we can do anything we want. We can have anything we want if we're willing to do the work. I believe we're at 100% capacity all the time, whatever that happens to be. And in the case of today's discussion around losing weight and getting in shape, obviously we all know what it takes to get in shape. It's caloric deficit, it's weight resistance, it's having the right macros. I mean, the formula's pretty simple on the surface, right? It doesn't matter who you talk to, whatever personal trainer, whatever thing you out there is a basic formula that's at the base of every single fitness plan, nutrition plan. It's just there. So why is it so difficult? Why is it so challenging? Why are more than half the Americans alive today overweight? Why is the obesity rate to the degree it is? And why is it so difficult to eat healthy? And the reality is, my belief is this journey of losing weight, not only losing weight, but keeping the weight off, is a mental and emotional challenge journey, as much, or in some cases more so, than the nutrition and working out. And so what I want to do is, before we get into this, again, I'm a men's coach. I work with men and helping them rewrite the stories. I do life coaching. I've got group coaching. And a big thing that I've launched this year is helping men that have at least 30 pounds to lose get in shape, keep the weight off, and have this new renowned sense of confidence like they've never had before. Again, one of the greatest things that men get working with me is they get to work with someone that knows it. I truly believe you can't know something unless you've experienced it. So I know what it feels like to be morbidly overweight, morbidly obese. I know both sides of it. I know the effects that it has on you. I also know the effects that you can experience and the confidence that you can have by losing the weight. And let's be clear, I'm not special. There's nothing that I have done that any other person can do. I made a choice that took years to get to this. I'm 47 years old. I was overweight for most of my life. I struggled with weight for most of my life, starting at the age of 10. So this has been a lifelong battle, a lifelong journey for me. And now who I am, I've embodied this new way of being. What was so difficult for so many years becomes easy. Going to the gym to me is like brushing my teeth. It's just who I am. It's what I do. It's a non-negotiable. And the reality is I don't want to go half the time, but I just go. Just like maybe, late at night, you might not want to brush your teeth. You do it anyway. It just is. And it's taken me a while to get there. And one of the greatest things you get with me is I can help you walk for those men that need to lose more weight, that cannot seem to lose the weight or lose it, or might do a 75 hard or whatever happens to be. But it's temporary. And I'm telling you, you can embody this where it just becomes who you are. It's a way of being. So what I want to do is kind of go back to the beginning on some of this stuff. Just to give you a little bit of a backdrop on my story and where I came from as it relates to my weight loss and my, physical transformation. So I mentioned to the age of 10. So when, I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah. I live here in Salt Lake now. But when I was younger, we lived in Chicago. And I started to put on weight when I was 9 years old. And, my parents, not knowing what to do, ended up talking to the pediatrician. And they're like, hey, what do we need? We've got our son that's putting on weight. What should we do? Well, the pediatrician told them that, hey, you know what? Maybe get a little trampoline and have him jump on the trampoline, every night. So here I am as a 9-year-old, all of a sudden not realizing that I have this weight thing. And now all of a sudden it's directed towards me. And now all of a sudden I have a complex around my weight at such a young age. It really was 5 or 6 years ago that I finally sat my parents down. I'm like, what the hell were you thinking? Bringing so much attention to a 9-year-old in his weight, and I'm sharing this with my parents. And at this point, I was just trying to get understanding. I was trying to heal this part of me, and my mom and dad were there, and my mom had tears streaming down her face. And she said, Adam, we didn't know what to do. We did the best that we could, and we got advice from our pediatrician and just took it. So there's grace. They didn't know what they were doing, but nevertheless, it created a complex in me. And I had, body issues or body shame issues or whatever, dysmorphia, whatever you want to call it, from a very, very young age. And battled that on and off, gaining weight, losing weight. And really through my teens and, into my early 20s, well, just before turning 20, I struggled with weight. When I graduated from high school, I was 270 pounds. And what I would do, I was always outgoing, always putting myself out there, but I would try to fill the void of taking care of my health with other things. So I was student body president in high school. I was always doing sports. I was doing all the things, but I wasn't eating healthy and I wasn't taking care of my health. It was so hard. I used food to cope and manage my emotions. And when I'll never forget this, I was a freshman in college, getting ready to play the last year of actually high school rugby. Back in those days, it was under 19 could play for the club sport. I played here locally for Highland High School. We won the national championship, went and played in New Zealand and Australia. It was a phenomenal experience. But I remember on New Year's Eve, I came home and I was just sick of it. And I looked at my dad and I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I'm going to start on the national rugby team. I'm going to lose this weight, and I'm not going to eat any. My thing at the time was cheeseburgers, so I'm like, I'm not going to eat any cheeseburgers. And I stuck to that, and I went from like 270 pounds. I got all the way down to like 220. We won the national championship, and when I won the national championship, everybody's celebrating, and I sat there and bawled my eyes out, uncontrollable crying. My friends are looking at me like, what the hell's wrong with you? What's going on, Adam? I couldn't stop crying. And it wasn't the fact that we just won something. It was the fact that I actually made a decision. I changed my health. I did something I didn't think was possible, and I lost the weight. That win, if you will, was so much more. It was 6 months of following through on the commitments, doing the things that I didn't think I could do, but I stuck to it anyway. It wasn't easy, but I changed up to that point. And, my weight kind of stayed there for a little while, lost even more weight. At the time, I was a member of the LDS Church, the Mormon Church, went on a mission, came home, from Argentina, and I weighed 188 pounds. People used to tell me, for those, that are my age or older, the show He-Man, everybody was calling me Skeletor. I mean, it was gaunt. And, came back, was eating healthy. And then, early 21, 22, started to put the weight on, and literally from 21 to, fast forward all the way up till I was about 41, massive weight swings, up 50 pounds, up 75, down 50, down 75, over and over and over. Could never seem to get traction. I would do all sorts of different fad diets. It didn't matter what it was. Any fitness equipment that they sold online, I'm like, I'm going to do it. And I would get in and I would do this, for short sprints of a time. If I was training for a race, I could get to the race, I'd do the race, and then I'd go back into my old way of being. I wasn't changing things. So, many times we can do something for a very short period of time. 75 hard today is probably the most popular. I mean, anyone can do anything for 75 hard. My experience is with most of the people that have done that, not all, but many or most either end up going back to the weight they were before they started, or in some cases actually put on more weight. And so why is that? Why is it that we can do something for a short period of time, but then all of a sudden we can't embody it, for those of us that have struggled with weight, and keep it off, indefinitely, just becomes part of who we are? And again, this goes back, which I'm going to, get into the weeds in a little bit more, is around our emotional and mental attachment to food. For those of us that struggle with weight, we use food to manage our emotions. It's the drug. If we're happy, we eat. If we're sad, we eat. If we're anxious, we eat. That was my thing. I mean, food was the drug, eating was the addiction. So I'd battle my way on and on and off. Got married, had kids, building this business. And what I was doing was my pursuit of wealth, if you will. I'm a recovering people pleaser, so much of my worth was tied to outside validation, what other people saw of me. And so I was showing up this way, doing all these things, but I wasn't taking care of my health. And in some cases, obviously to my detriment. I wasn't taking care of myself. And, in my late 30s, early 40s, 40 to 41, my marriage started to fall apart, ended up getting divorced. And as a way of, managing my emotions of the heartbreak and the family falling apart, well, at the time I saw it that way, I just ate. And my weight ballooned all the way up to 350 pounds. And I'll never forget that there was a rock bottom moment for me. They say, which I believe is, we don't change until the pain of our current situation exceeds the pain of change. So I had one night I will never forget. I was in my new house by myself, and my ex-wife at the time, or my ex-wife now, called me and just tore into me. Now, I don't even remember what she said, but what happened is I got off the phone. And by the way, side note, we're great friends now. We co-parent, divorced for our family. Was actually very, very positive. Our family unit is better than ever. And I talk a lot about that, and I'll talk about that in the future. But as it relates to this today, that conversation, I went into a trance. And any food that I could find in my house, I just started eating, literally like a zombie. And if that wasn't enough, I DoorDashed even more food. And I gorged myself, trying to get the pain to go away. Addiction for me is rooted in avoidance. I didn't want to feel the pain. I didn't want to feel what was reflected to me, my own emotions. And so as a way of not feeling, which the irony in this is, I was using something else to feel, or quote unquote, not feel. And painful. And I sat there in my front room by myself in the chair. I'll never forget this. And I just started sobbing, uncontrollable crying. And it was in that moment that I told myself, Adam, this isn't working. It's time to change. The pain of looking in the mirror, feeling the way I was at 350 pounds exceeded the pain of change. Now, the truth is, I was miserable at 340, 330, 320, 300. It doesn't matter, like 270, 280. I was miserable at all of those. But if I could go back to that guy and have a conversation with him, I'd look him in the eyes. I'd look myself in the eyes and say, Adam, you're actually not uncomfortable enough. Adam, you don't want it bad enough. And to have heard that or even thought that would have been like, there's no way I'm miserable. I don't like this. But guess what? I didn't change. I wasn't willing to change. I wasn't willing to be uncomfortable. I wasn't willing to make the decisions and do the work that was necessary to not only lose the weight, but keep the weight off. Painful reality, but it's the truth. So for those of you that are listening, and this would apply in all parts of your life, but specifically as it retains to weight loss and keeping it off, I would look at you and tell you with deep compassion, empathy, you don't want it bad enough. End of story. There's plenty of excuses. We could say genetics. We could say we're busy. All life's too, whatever it is, trust me. I know every story. I told myself every story, which to me, I was just lying to myself. I just didn't want it bad enough. I didn't care, which is crazy because I was miserable, but not miserable enough, not willing to change. And so the truth is, I could have made this decision when I weighed 250, 260, 270. I didn't. I was in a trance. It was just this emotional attachment to food was so intense, was so strong. I was addicted. It was an addiction. The dopamine that came from that was my, frankly, go-to for over 30 years. So to unlearn that and to unwind that is challenging. Some people do it, others don't. Everybody's different. This isn't about comparison. This isn't about comparing anything. This is about just getting real with yourself. You've got to look in the mirror and just get really honest. I say this all the time, is the hardest person we have ever faced, currently face, or will face is ourselves. And telling the truth, all of the truth. The truth is painful. The truth hurts, but it will set you free. And once you establish truth, once you get to the place to like radical acceptance, radical accountability as to why you are where you are, that is the beginning point. That is the pivotal moment to getting and doing what you want. Now, granted, you can take full acceptance. You're in the position you are. You've got the weight. You realize you're the one that contributed to it. No one, tied you down and shoved food into your mouth. You did that. But once you have the awareness, you now have to make the change. And what happens is when you go from one way of doing life, if you will, food. I mean, there's science that backs this. It's the dopamine that it hits. So it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's sugar, fried food, unhealthy stuff, processed food, like our body gets used to that. So when you pull it away and you start eating healthy, the body is craving for more. It's craving. And so the initial take when you first start working out, when you have the motivation, you have the excitement, usually initially it's okay. You can get through it. It's usually what I've found is it's like once you get a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks into it, then all of a sudden that motivation starts to wane, or it's not there at all. And you find yourself craving food and wanting things. And I'm missing this and I'm missing that. And the idea of losing, in my case, 100+ pounds felt impossible. There's just no way. How am I ever going to do that? And so it requires that you get comfortable being uncomfortable, but it's temporary. You've got to be able to get through that. You have to be able to move through that. And for my clients that I work with and do this, I help teach this. I teach skills that you can actually have the most incredible cravings that you feel like you can't say no to, actually move away and actually completely go away in a matter of 20, 30 seconds. There's things that you can do. So for my one-on-one clients, I teach this. There is a way for you to be able to retrain your brain, reprogram, and more than importantly, rebuild your relationship with food. It's possible. Now, the first year when I started on this, when I weighed 350 pounds, I lost 70 pounds the first year. And the reality is I could have lost 100. I was good during the weeks, or I might party on the weekends, but I was really, really consistent. I worked hard, but I wasn't perfect. This isn't about perfection. When you start on a weight loss journey, when you start on a weight loss transformation, expect that you're going to fall back into old patterns. Expect that it's going to happen. It's inevitable. To go from one extreme to the next and to assume or think you're going to stay there indefinitely, you're just setting yourself up to fail. And especially if you've been eating really unhealthy and really not taking care of yourself, it's a process to get there to where you start to have a new baseline. It takes time. So I'm a huge advocate today, I didn't always used to be this way, is slow and steady wins the race. It's what are 1 or 2 or 3 things that we can do today to actually start to implement so it becomes a habit. It takes time. And then we make adjustments accordingly. Again, if you try to go from one extreme to the next, you end up failing. This is the problem with these fad diets, these things where you can starve yourself. I mean, again, we can do anything for a short period of time, but it's unsustainable. It's unsustainable. You cannot do it. You 9.9 times out of 10, you will set yourself up to fail. And if you're like me, you not only will go back to where you started, in many cases, you'll go back even further. You'll put on even more weight. And then the feeling of depression, not enoughness, all the things start to creep back in. It's like, because you tasted it and then you put it all back on. It's fascinating how this process works. And a lot of it's self-awareness. One of the things that I found that I didn't know consciously, that there was part of me that did not, or maybe a big part, honestly, did not feel worthy, believe it or not, of being healthy. Didn't feel worthy of it. Isn't that crazy? A lot of the men that I work with, it doesn't matter what part of their life they're trying to improve or have better in their life. If you get to the core of it, more often than not, it's rooted in worthiness. So for example, if you've got a thriving marriage, you're making great money, but your physical body, isn't where you want to be, there's a component or a part of you that doesn't feel worthy of it. Or if you might be in physically great shape and your marriage is doing great, but you're not making the money, you don't feel worthy of success, or you don't feel worthy of money. And I'm not talking about religion. I'm just talking as a person. And I preach this, I say this, and I'm telling you this, that we are worthy, period, end of story. There should never be anything that questions your worth, regardless of your religious affiliations, regardless of what other people tell you. Worthiness is just an inherent thing that each and every one of us as human beings has, and it should never, and I mean never, be questioned. And that takes time to do that, because again, it's easier said than done. For those of you that are thinking or even listening to this, probably like, well, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, up here it makes sense in our head. But when you can really fully embody that, no, I am worthy of success. No, I am worthy of a healthy body. No, I am worthy of all the money I want to make. No, I am worthy of a healthy and thriving and passion-filled relationship. End of story. And then if we want something, it requires action. It requires that we do stuff. It's not as if God's going to all of a sudden come down and just all of a sudden snap his fingers and say, okay, Adam, you've decided you're worthy. You're 350 pounds. You're going to wake up in the morning. You're going to be 220 pounds shredded. Now, does God have the power to do that? Absolutely. But it doesn't mean something if we just are given it. It's all about earning it. It's about doing the work necessary. And there's a million things that I could share, examples that we could share, that when we actually do the work and do what's necessary, there is so much pride, there is so much confidence. And the thing that I love the most about weight loss and transformation is you cannot outsource it. You cannot cheat it. You cannot not do the work. Now, granted, there's peptides, there's semaglutide. I mean, there's all these different things today, right, that can help the process, that can help you lose weight. There's, hormone therapy. There is peptides. There's all sorts of things. Even guys, I always find this interesting or ironic, if you will, that you get a guy that's on social or a fitness influencer, and you can totally tell the guy's roided out. So he posts something, and at the end, the comments are like, what steroids? I mean, just blasting the guy for steroids. Whether the guy's on steroids or not is irrelevant. He still had to put the work in. You can't just take steroids and look like that. It still requires time in the gym. It still requires eating healthy. It still requires work. And this is the thing I love the most about fitness is it takes work. No one can do it for you. It takes time. I'll tell you, I'm not a very patient person. I'm more patient today than I've ever been. But every time I get in my head or I want this more or faster, I come back to hey, Adam, look how long it's taking you to do this, and understand that it takes time. So these quick fads, lose all this weight in 90 days. I mean, is it possible? Sure. For those of you guys that are heavier, have 50 plus pounds to lose, could you lose 50 pounds in 3 months? 100%. When I was on it, I was losing 20. When I was really heavy, I could lose 20 pounds in a month. No problem. Easy. But was it sustainable? No. So I'm telling you that it's like this is not a sprint. As much as we want it, as we're preparing for summer, we want to have the bathing suit body, whatever. I mean, get after it, whatever it is to motivate you, but ultimately to embody a new way of being, to have something that just who you are. This is a marathon, and it's going to require, yes, eating healthy, working out. That's a given. But the thing that holds people or hurts people the most or prevents them in some cases is their emotional and mental attachment to food. We use food is at the center of everything, right? We celebrate. Let's go out to eat. If we're stressed, we go out to eat. You've got to find other ways to be able to manage your emotions. It's very, very important. You've got to be okay being hungry sometimes. Many times those hunger feelings that we have isn't that we're even hungry. It's just our body craving sugar. It's the dopamine that we're searching for. And what I have found is the more and the longer you do this, the easier it becomes. Those triggers become less and less. So for example, for me, I love Oreos. And so even on this journey, if I get triggered, my default even today is I want to eat. I mean, it still is. I mean, that was my default forever. I mostly don't give into it, but there are rare instances where I'm like, you know what, forget it. I'm going to do this. Well, I could pound a bag of Oreos, no problem. I'd feel sick. I'd beat myself up for doing it. And then I'd get back on the horse. And today it's like, and that went with time, then it went from a bag to a half a bag to a few. And today, if I start to eat an Oreo, I actually feel sick after 2 or 3 of them. And so why is that the case now? It's just because I love how it feels not to do that. And I've gotten so attuned with my body and managing my emotions, or more importantly, not using food as the go-to, that I have other tools, I have other ways, I have other resources that I use to help manage my emotions. I have emotions like everybody else. I'm not unique in that case. I'm all over the place. I've got big energy. I can light up a room or I can suck the energy out of it. And so as I become more conscious and done the work and continue to do the work, I'm able to manage that stuff. I've gotten control of that. And it takes time. So this is one of the big things that I teach and coach with the men that I work with, is helping them learn how to manage and regulate their emotions. I would argue that the reason you're overweight, for those guys that are overweight, it's because you have an unhealthy attachment to food and you're using food to manage your emotions. The other big thing comes up is like, I'm eating healthy. If you're not tracking what you're eating, especially if you have been unhealthy for a long period of time. The reality is you don't know what you're eating. You don't. You need to be able to track this, especially when you go out to eat. There's some great fitness apps out there. Probably the most popular one is MyFitnessPal. I mean, I track everything I eat. If I'm going out to eat, I put it in. I track it. Now, why do I do that? And honestly, I just barely started tracking. Well, barely. I started tracking, probably 2+ years ago, and it's been a game changer to me. When I started to track what I was eating, if I was going to a restaurant or whatever it happened to be, I'm like, oh, this is healthy. And then I would, when I started tracking, I'd enter in the information, and I was blown away by how unhealthy it is. I'll never forget, I went to this place to get an acai bowl. And I'm like, oh, fruit, granola, this will be great. Now, granted, I know there's sugar in it, there's calories, there's carbs. I knew that. So I order the acai bowl, and I sit down and I go to plug it in, and most of the mainstream restaurants are inside the app. I put it in, and this acai bowl had like 1,200 calories. It had like 5 times the amount of carbs for my plan that I had allocated for the day. I mean, it was insane. I had no idea. I mean, I hardly ate any of it. But again, that was a great lesson for me in realizing that, like, if I'm not tracking, I have no idea. So one of the key things you need to do is you really need to track your plan. If you're not tracking, you're slacking, and frankly, you don't have insight. I have clients that are like, I'm eating healthy. And then when you really get down into the weeds, they might put in, hey, I had a steak. And if they're not cooking it themselves and they went to a restaurant, that steak could have 50% more fat, 50% more whatever. You don't know what it was cooked in. I mean, all these things matter. And so if you're tracking, I have found has been one of the greatest ways to do that. And so for my clients, we build a plan. Either it's a meal plan that, they don't have to track anything as long as they follow it, they're within their plan. Or we use a macro-based plan where based upon, where their particular weight is and what their goal is, we set a plan together. I like that because it gives you flexibility. So if at the end of the day, for example, you're craving sugar and you have room for carbs and fat and you want an Oreo or whatever happens to be, then eat it. This isn't about going from one extreme to the next. It's about creating a baseline and creating something that is sustainable. It's not that you have to eat quote unquote perfect all the time. It's just about creating new baselines. I don't believe in extreme. I mean, it's interesting. I'm an extremist. I'm either all the way in or I'm all the way out. And on my weight loss journey, I'm okay if I don't eat healthy sometimes. I don't beat myself up. I just accept what is. I'm more conscious when I do it. But I have done this and learned this through a series of trial and error of what works and what doesn't work. And I just want to feel good. And it's so cliche. I hate this, that nothing tastes as good as healthy feels. I remember a friend years ago that she goes, I hated that quote. And what was interesting is she was really overweight. So it's funny that why she hated that quote, because maybe that was just, she didn't want to give up what she was eating. I mean, at the end of the day, people get to choose. We all get to choose. But if you really want to get in shape, if you really, really want to lose the weight, we've got to rewrite the stories. We have to implement tools to help you manage your emotions, learn how you can move through them, learn how you can move through the uncomfortableness. And I'm telling you with certainty, because I've done this myself and this is what I teach, is I teach a skill that you can actually move through your emotions, and that craving for sugar or whatever it happens to be that you're longing for, it can go away in a matter of 20 seconds. Literally. I'm not just saying that. It works. So I'm telling you, there's things you can do. And one of the great things you get with working with me as a fitness coach is you get someone that has walked the walk and is currently walking the walk and talks the talk. With me, you're never going to find me talking about or coaching or guiding or whatever happens to be in something that I have not done or am currently doing. I refuse to do that. We all know plenty of people that do that say one thing and do another. Because of my journey in life, I want to be completely in integrity and be the same guy I am here on camera and on this podcast as I am at my house alone, as I am with friends. It doesn't matter where you see me. I'm going to show up the same way. And I'm not going to show or teach something that I'm not currently doing myself. I am so passionate about weight loss and helping men, especially those that have more than 30 pounds to lose. If you've never been really overweight or severely overweight or obese, the truth is you just don't know what that feels like. You don't know the depressive feelings, the feelings of less than, the inadequacy you feel. And many of us are people pleasers and we're trying to please all the things, but really what's happening is we're dying on the inside. We hate the guy. We avoid mirrors all the time. We don't even want to look at ourselves. We are so embarrassed, but the pain of it which again, for those of you that don't know, listen, you're probably like, well, then do something about it. You're right. But there's so much emotional baggage tied to that it's, again, the formula is easy, but when you take into consideration the emotional trauma, really, in our attachment to food, it is, you can't negate it. It just is. And so one of the greatest things you get with me is like, yes, I know that. So I know the stories. I know how I can help move through that. You're working with me. You're going to work with somebody that actually knows it intimately well. So I can connect in your pain. I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like to screw up. I know what it feels like to go for 5 or 6 days or even 2 or 3 weeks and then completely drop off the bandwagon. And where you want to just throw your hands up and say, fuck it, I'm done. I know what that feels like. My big thing too for years is like, I'm going to start on Monday. I was a Monday guy. So what would I do on Sunday? I would gorge myself. I'd eat a lot. I'd feel like crap, but I'm like, I'm starting Monday. And sometimes I'd go to Wednesday. Sometimes I go to Thursday. Sometimes I go the week or 2 weeks. I'd keep going, but I can't tell you how many times, even on a Monday, that I'm like, I'm starting Monday. I get up, I go work out. I'm feeling good. I've set the goal. And then I go to lunch. And then, someone, a client at the time, like, hey, let's go here. Let's say we go to a Five Guys or a cheeseburger place or wherever. It's like, I'll get a cheeseburger. And then it's like, oh, well, screwed up the week. And then literally I would just eat crappy the rest of the week. And then I'd start again on Monday. Rinse and repeat. Listen, whether it's a Monday or a Thursday or a Friday, it doesn't matter. You can start whenever. But again, in my head, it's like, it's got to be a Monday. That was part of I'm either all in or all out. And I'm telling you, with fitness and nutrition, if you have that mentality, you're just setting yourself up to fail. It can't be an all in or all out. You're going to have moments where you're going to eat a cheeseburger if you want it. You're going to have moments where there's going to be cake, different things. Like, enjoy it, have it, but things in moderation. And there's ways that you can work through this stuff. And I'm telling you, again, I said this at the beginning, I am not special. I am not unique. I just chose to do the work. I got comfortable being uncomfortable. And many times during that, I wasn't uncomfortable, but the taste and the goal and the desire exceeded that temporary feeling of wanted to eat. And I will tell you this, one of the greatest things that I have found even today, when I'm craving food and I want something and I don't take it, I don't eat it, the sense of accomplishment that I feel going to bed is euphoric. It's priceless. Confidence is forged in doing things we might not necessarily want to do. And many times it's doing things that we say we're going to do. Confidence starts with the commitments we make to ourselves. So I will tell you that if you tell yourself Sunday night, hey, I want to work out in the morning, but you don't tell your wife, you don't tell anyone else, but you told yourself, and you get up and you don't do it, your confidence is being eroded. I'll go as far as saying you're out of integrity. And so, but again, it's like, nobody knows. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't commit to it. No one's holding me accountable. Well, and for those of you that, believe in a higher power, God got you, and God know that. God heard you and you heard you. So follow through on those commitments. Last year, getting my steps in every day was a huge deal for me. It's like, that was the goal I set. I wanted to average over 10,000 steps every day. Well, I can't tell you how many nights that I would, it's 8 o'clock, 9, 10 o'clock sometimes after I'd look down and I'm like, I've got 3,000 steps, 5,000 steps. It was like a long day in the office or whatever. And I didn't want to do it. I'm tired. I had every excuse I'll do it tomorrow. I'll make it up, whatever happens to be. But I would committed to hit the goal, and I'd go out and walk, sometimes at 11 o'clock at night. And yes, I got less sleep. But when I went to bed that night, I felt so accomplished, so grateful, so much pride that I actually did something. And again, we're talking about going for walking, sometimes for 15, 20 minutes. In the scheme of things, it's not that big a deal. It's not about the steps. It's about the commitment. It's about the confidence that we get by following through on whatever commitment we make. And when you start to follow through on those commitments for yourself, that then cascades into other parts of your life. I mean, how many times do you say yes to other people, but you say no to you? How many times does that happen? I know I'm not alone in this. I said yes to everybody, to everything. Yep, I'll help you. I would be ready to go to the gym in the morning, or I'm planning on going to the gym, and I have a client say, hey, can we meet for coffee early in the morning at 7 o'clock? Sure, yep. I could have told him no. I should have told him no, but I didn't. Why? Because I wanted to show up for him. But at the end of the day, I could have told him, hey, I actually work out. I'm not available till 9. He would say, okay, great. Let's meet at 9. It was no big deal. But I was sacrificing myself. I was people pleasing. I was placating others. So, and that took precedence over me. And again, another cliche thing that's said all the time is you can't pour from an empty cup. And the truth is I had this major void in my life that I was not filling that, and again, which led to that big me weighing 350 pounds when I finally started to say no to other things and saying yes to me and saying yes to your health. I'm telling you that if you are in physical, if you are, I'm telling you right now, if you are physically fit, the confidence that will come from feeling that way will cascade into other parts of your life. You will have a better marriage. You will be more confident in your marriage. The sex will be better. You want to look good naked? Get in shape. You want your wife to be turned on when you look at it? Get in shape. Is your wife going to be turned on when she sees you, and you weigh 50, 75 pounds and your belly's all over the place? Like, is that a turn on? I mean, let's get real. It's not. So be the guy. Be that man. Get your ass in shape. Do it for her. Do it for your family. But more importantly, do it for you. You want to make more money. When you walk into a room, people respect. It is what it is. Everybody's judging. We're all being judged. If you're physically, no matter how good you're at your craft, people are judging you for how you look physically. I'll never forget this. I mean, I made a ton of money in my investment firm, and I would get on the board. I'm drawing. I'm doing all the things. I can't tell you how many times I'd turn around and see the clients or the prospects not looking at my eyes, not looking at what I was drawing. They were looking at my belly hanging over my belt. Did I notice that? Oh, hell yeah, I noticed that. Did it sting? Yeah, it sting. But I'm telling you, people notice. Everybody's judging. So there's an element of respect in society. It just is what it is. There's a level of respect when someone first meets you when you're in shape. We all notice it. We all recognize it. It just is. So stop lying to yourself and realize that it has a huge impact in that. It'll have an impact in all the parts of your life if you're physically fit in your body. What you consume affects everything. It truly is. Again, you hear these things all the time. It's like, especially for those business guys that are super successful, making tons of money doing all the things. And it's like, but yet, you might even have a Ferrari, but for your body's like a Ferrari and you're putting unleaded gasoline, not even premium. But your body, you're living this Ferrari lifestyle, if you will, and your body looks like a Daihatsu or some old Hyundai or a Ford Taurus. I mean, come on, let's get real. Trust me, I was that guy. So I can speak to it. The reality is, guys, if you want more in life, it doesn't matter what area of your life is. Being physically fit is necessary. And I'm telling you, the confidence that you're going to feel being physically fit, being in shape, is priceless. And it's not just the feelings you get in your body; it's the feeling and the confidence you get that you did the work. So I'm telling you, no matter how overweight you are, no matter how old you are, no matter what the genes and family history, whatever illness, whatever reason you have to not get in shape, I'm telling you can do it. I've got a client right now. The guy has heart issues. He needs a heart transplant. He's doing the work. He's down 30, almost 40 pounds from his high. He's got every reason not to do it, but he's doing it. And most of you do not have something that's holding you back, whether it's a bad heart or whatever happens to be. You've got diabetes. Guess what? More often than not, for those of type 2 coming on, you can reverse that. I was pre-diabetic. Luckily, I didn't have it, but I was pre-diabetic. Not today. Again, why? Just because I decided to make a change. And my goal and hope for anyone listening to this is like, don't let it get bad enough. Don't let it get so bad that you have a heart attack or something drastic happens in your life that it's finally that catalyst that motivates you to move. Sometimes we need that. I needed that. Took my ex-wife ripping me to pieces. It took a divorce. It took so many things, but it got me there. I wish I would have made the change earlier. But looking back, I'm so grateful for those moments. Rock bottom is actually a gift. The pain is the gift. The fear is the gift. You are worthy of a healthy body. You can do this. And if I did it, trust me, you can too. It's a big part of me, and I want my journey to be able to inspire you to be able to do that. Transformation is possible. No matter how out of shape you are, no matter what's going on in life, you can change. You can be shredded. You're going to see me on stage here in the next couple of months, shredded from being morbidly overweight. And if I can do it, you can do it. I'm grateful for each and every one of you for listening, for taking the time to hear my story, and hopefully more than anything, you can be inspired by what I've done. You can learn what not to do because I've made plenty of mistakes. The list is longer than the good stuff. And I want you to know there's power in being open and power in sharing our insecurities and our vulnerabilities and the things that our limiting beliefs. We all have them. And I believe what connects us are those. That's part of being a human, is the duality of all of it. And there's so much emphasis in look at me, look at all the good stuff. But it's like, you know what? We all have a bad side. We all have the shadow side of it. So let's connect in that and let's help each other grow. Let's help level people up. Let's help people not feel shame and guilt around whatever's holding them back, because we all have it. We all have fear. We all have insecurities. We all have them. So let's just own them and let's build each other up and let's create a safe space and a safe container that we can share them, acknowledge them, and then let's progress, collectively, especially individually, in helping pave the way that we can all be better humans in every pillar of our life. Thank you for tuning into the Burnout Podcast. I would love for you to give us a 5-star review and share, and even possibly write a review on this to help spread the word. It's an honor to be with you, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.